so often you'd have live issues, and in the end it was just crazy if you had to repeat everything. I'd just say, go to the archives, you'll hear the show. Wander, 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 la-di-da-di-da. See, that's just not like me at all.
Good.
Okay, we just got Zoe says she can hear now. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, so it was only one person?
Oh no, it was quite a few. Pardon the technical difficulty and everything. We're back up and going.
It's okay.
So yeah, Dorothy was just kind of explaining a lot about the reading the aura process. Now, to clear up my confusion, what is the difference between the aura reading and then the future projection that you do?
So, an aura reading's looking at your aura right now, what it looks like. Even if you send me a photo, that's what I tried to explain to you, I think. That's a couple of years old or 6 months old. I'm not reading the photo. I'm reading you now. And so the information is current. But that's why it makes sense not to send a photo of yourself at 5, because that would look silly when I'm talking about sophisticated adult stuff, right? So, within a reasonable time frame, but it doesn't really make any difference. It's more about you recognize yourself in that picture, and then there's the colors around you. I'll talk about this 2012 to 2018 for a minute. It shows that although an aura does change over time, the basic structure of it's really similar, and you can just see more than anything the colors are very similar. Some have developed from 2012 to 2018, but you can see that it's become what I would call it. If you look at the two, what's the first difference that you would say in 2018? What would you say, just looking at that yourself, guys, or one of you?
I would say the violet or the indigo is more predominant, and it looks like she's got green in the throat chakra and green in the center chakra.
Right. And so for me, the word that I would say is the biggest difference between the two, aside from the development of colors, because you can see those colors in the earlier aura, just that they're a little bit convoluted and a little bit dull here and there. Or as the throat goes, you can just see a hint of green off to her right in the first picture, whereas it's really out there loud and proud now, is the word confidence. So you're seeing a person who's gone from not being 100% sure either who they are or where they're going to a person who is a lot more confident in themselves. They're very much more assured, if you like, in the way they go forward. So those are the main differences. Auras almost never completely change. So we develop bits of character and we change your motivation, and those are the things that we will see as differences. It's not likely a person with pinky, mauvey, yellowy auras will suddenly become bright red, green, and blue, if that makes sense. So your personality is your personality, and then we develop aspects of our character. We strengthen things, or we don't, or something could go wrong, in which case we will find ourselves in a situation where we're not necessarily as confident as we were. It can go the other way, in other words. So if you have a look to the top right where the 2012 is, you'll see this orange ball, right? And then have a look at where it is in 2018. It's very close to her throat and her left shoulder, and that's her development and creativity. And I can tell you, which she's given me permission to do really, is that in the first one here was not long after she had separated from her husband. She had 5 children. She lives in Canada. So the support thing isn't like, marvelous. It's not bad, but not marvelous. So she went back to work in the job that she'd had earlier in her life and got on with it. She knew what she wanted, but she was sort of scrabbling around for a little bit. In 2018, she has bought herself a house. She's updated her old car. Her kids are growing up. Older daughters have left home to go to university. All of that stuff's happened. So although her job situation hasn't actually changed, she's been in it now for all of these years, and she's calm, confident, and she was given a promotion a couple of years ago to be in charge of the people she used to be. So you can see the development of life, just a normal development, nothing exceptional, but a normal development of life through that period of time. She pursues her spiritual quests on the side. She's always done that. But the biggest and most important thing is the things she wanted to achieve for herself that you can see all around her in 2012 is more of a can I do this? In 2018, it's I have done this. What do I want to do now? So those are the biggest difference you can see. And they are the differences that people live in their lives, aren't they? Relationships break down, things change. We have to do something different. A dream or something we expected doesn't work out. So then we choose to look at something else. Those are the kind of things we do through our lifetime. So that's the aura reading for that period of time through her life. A future projection now, in case you hadn't noticed, kind of ugly. It's kind of ugly to look at. There's pretty colors, but they're kind of weird. The future projection is specifically that. This is how things, or the dominant or main influences, are going to change over time. And that's why it doesn't look pretty, because it's not constant. But where one aspect might change, as you can see, where one aspect might change and dominate a period of time, and that's why I do it in 6 months to 2 years, because the thing here is that what we focus on over a period of time changes. We can go through 6 months being completely worried about money, right? And then we get to the end of that 6 months and we find that actually it wasn't that bad, or we get our relief, or something changes, and then we move on to the next 6 months. We might spend 6 months wanting to buy a house, wanting to go on a holiday. So they become our main focus. And even if you're doing everything else the same, when you're saving for a holiday, that sort of pops into your mind a lot, right? And you watch your bank balance going up where you're saving for that holiday, or where you can pay for it at some point. You're putting things aside for it, planning it, you're booking the trip, those kind of things, maybe buying the clothes. So we've got things like that going on in our day-to-day lives, buying cars, moving house. They're all things that hold our attention for quite long periods of time. It's not something that we usually do in a moment. So these are what you call a main influence. Now, the right side of a future projection tends to be the things you are doing, going to do, want to do, and the left side tends to be how you feel about that. So if I look at a main influence and there's a conflict in those, it means that you're going to go into a period of time where you don't necessarily like what's going on, but you may have to deal with it. You follow? And then, of course, the clairvoyant aspect is seeing exactly what that is. So your aura over time is never going to be as pretty and constant as it looks right in front of your face as a moment. But it's interesting to see what those changes are. Where you see one thing, one color, one theme that goes all the way through for a long period of time, as you can see in this one, your orange theme starts kicking in from the solar plexus and the sacral in between the two at about 12 months, Suzie. And then it just develops and keeps on going forward right through to the 2 years and beyond. So at that period, which is sort of a year from today, I always take them as from today, from the day that I do them, okay, which is yesterday or day before, so we can live a day or two out, and how it goes on. When you get something completely different, as you see it, between your 6 months and your 12-month zone, there's this red thing over to the right there with the light. It's not matching up or touching anything else, so it's an isolated event. Okay. And so when you have an isolated event, that event means it's not going to last long. By the looks of the period of time it covers, I'd say maybe 3 months max, okay? And that's how you read these things. It's like a little map rather than this is your energy today. Now, some things will be recognizable because they're half in your mind even if you haven't started them, and some things won't. But what I want you to look at is up to the top left here, because I'm reading this now, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, sure. Let's just wing it.
Yeah, so well, it's here, so we might as well go for it. And I will explain what they mean, not just the colors and how it's just an explanation to start with. You see this lime green up the top of the right side there, and it's like a pendulum. If you look down to this big, bold thing at the bottom, right? If you see that same arc is actually balanced. So if you can imagine, if you remember those birds with the little hammer thing on with the water, do you remember those? And you'd tilt them and they'd just go swinging backwards and forwards because it's like the pendulum. Well, that's what this looked like to me, and it's what it felt like. So although it changes from the right way out the top here, it actually moves way down. So that's what I call a constant. You can see it sort of dotting down into the right-hand side of your neck. It will give you a sore neck at about that time if you don't follow through. And then, of course, it moves on down, and it's learning. So the lime green is a learning process. Because we've got it like an umbrella up there, everything else that comes from that or decision that you make will be related to that. How can I develop? How can I grow? What do I want to develop? What do I want to grow? Becomes a question. And now we've got this very dark it's indigo. I don't know if you can see that. I'm using my cursor as if you can see it, guys. So, just pretend. Yeah, I really am. I'm like, can you see this?
I think
can you see this? I'm going round and round and round. Yeah, this bit here. Yeah. So that indigo part, which is just by the ball of lime green, it suggests that you want to take, and people think of indigo as spirituality. It's really not. It's sensitivity. And sensitivity can be good or bad. So a lot of people with early indications of indigo, and I don't mean children, I've never seen a child with indigo in their aura ever. So when you get to that teenage years when they start to develop it, and the indigos are the ones that tend to become addicts, by the way. They don't know how to manage their sensitivity, and it's not always spiritual. They just feel stuff. They feel stuff quickly from their parents, from their family. They feel things deeply, not necessarily deeper than others, but they're sensitive to feeling it. And so they're the ones that are more likely to want to try and numb out those feelings, to try and control them. Unfortunately, as a teenager, one tends to overdo that. So they become, when I say our addicts, I really should specify early addicts, the ones that start smoking at 9 or 10 years old, and everybody goes, oh, that's early, or they start drinking at 11, like they do things at a really early age because they just don't know how to cope with how they feel, and they don't know how to explain it either. And that doesn't mean that something bad's happened to them, but when indigo becomes present, that preteen coming into the teenage years, if it's big enough, it can be problematic. Do you recognize that about yourself? Oh, that was such an evil little laugh. Yeah. You just know from hearing me do that Super Mario Brothers was in our household years ago. Oh, Nintendo. Yeah, it was, because they had that evil laugh. Remember when they take out your car and there'd be that.
Yeah, I definitely just hit that nail right on the head there. That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So the lime here, going into that ball of lime, is an umbrella of wanting to understand that, wanting to know more about it, if not specific situations. The lime going into that indigo is what specifically your focus is on learning. And you can see they almost blend into the right side of your head. That means it's playing a strong role right now, and over the next 6 months, that's not likely to change. And I see that pendulum swinging down to a big, bright, oh, I get it.
Yay! That's good news. That's good news, right?
At about 18 months.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
But there's a direct line, almost a direct line, as you can see it. And because it crosses your body, there's a bit of red through there. So there's some quite impassioned situations around that. They are areas that may have affected your sacral plexus, which is your girly bits, wombs, ovaries, things like that. Menstruating, all of that stuff, could have had their own little problems with you. But also you're talking about things like self-value, what you understand is your place in the world. I'm not a people pleaser, really. I'm just a person trying to live a peaceful life. That kind of energy. It's understanding that we can look at it differently. And where it comes from is important, but it's not as important as what we do about it, actually. So quite an interesting thing. If we look at the things that contribute to our habits, our day-to-day life, the things we do that we don't like that we do, then you're on the ballpark of healing, really. Because while we know we don't like what we do or something we're doing, when we understand its relationship to something else, it is powerful. I don't know if I ever told you about, I did a hypnotherapy. I do a program called DNA restructuring, and I always start talking about it with like a million warnings. It's like, oh, starts like that. Are you sure you want to do this one? And I've even been told, you're not selling it very well, Dorothy. You're not selling it. And the thing is, of course, that for me, it's one of those unknowns. It's an amazing program. I developed it myself on myself. But the thing is, I can't guarantee what's going to happen. So once you've done it, because it's DNA and it's right back to your cell origins, as in single cell pregnancy type moment, conception, anything could happen. So what disappears, what changes is quite a process. It can take 3 months to a year, and you could find yourself extremely angry. You could physically go down in a screaming heap for months, and then come bouncing back. The results are amazing. The knowledge is amazing. The journey is a trial by fire. There's no doubt about it. Well, this is the sort of thing we're talking about with that, because when I did a DNA restructuring for a woman, she'd come to me for weight issues. and she was in perfect shape, like really good shape for her age. And I was like, I don't understand this, And she said, well, I'm here for the DNA. And I thought, wait, she said, because I've had my stomach stapled. And she'd had her stomach stapled about 5 years before. She'd gone to another hypnotherapist so that she didn't crave things, and desire things she couldn't have and what she couldn't eat and quantities and so on. And it had worked perfectly. And she said that worked really well. So I had to ask her, well, why do you think you want DNA for weight loss when you've got that? And she said to me initially, I'm scared those things will come back. So I said, all right, well, I don't know that that's the issue. And then she went on to talk about, and she's now spending a fortune. She's arguing with her husband a lot about her expenditure. She feels that's an addiction. So I could see her mind was working and looking for reasons for how she felt. So we did the first 4 DNAs, and on the 4th one, we're now down to her 7 years of age cycle. There's 4 or 5 years in each cycle. And she came out of that one and she sat up, she started crying and told me how she was molested as a child and how her mother would make her take food to this old man down the end of the road. Yeah. And of course, how he would take that food, but he would also tell her that she couldn't tell, da, 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 da. And when she didn't want to go to take him his food out of the garden, her mother would tell her what a selfish, ignorant little girl she was, because, of course, she didn't know. They were doing the Christian, caring thing, and here she was not wanting to do it. So when you look at origins and what replaces them, it was that I don't think she had never told anybody. It wasn't a buried memory. There's no such thing really, but she'd never told anybody. She'd been married to a man for 30 years who didn't know. Her children didn't know. So essentially with her parents gone, they didn't know. Her sisters and brothers didn't know. She's the only one in the world keeping this secret, which is quite a horrible thing. But in her mind, the DNA thing was like somehow connected everything together, but she had never connected her eating or addiction problems or how she felt with those incidences in the past. And I still find that quite amazing. And it was because she'd put them so far in the back of her mind, never discussed them with anybody, that she saw this is my problem. There's something wrong with me, that I want to eat like this, that I need an operation not to eat, that I want to spend when I can't eat, and so on and so on. So her behaviors were switching from one thing to the next. When one thing got taken care of, how she felt did not. Incidentally, she had great results. But the point being is something came out that needed to come out, actually. So this is that sort of thing where we go, I've got these things going on, but I'm not actually associating them with the right origins, okay? So you may blame yourself for something or criticize yourself for something that comes from a different place. And that's not about blaming somebody else. It's just understanding origins. If this is why feeling from there and I bring it forward and I don't know how to deal with my feelings, I'm going to do one of two things with it. I'm either going to become self-destructive with it. I'm going to try and keep it in me, so I don't have to put it out there anywhere, or I'm going to become destructive in general. And so that's how people go about things, and that's where struggles genuinely come from. So that was a big discussion about just that little part. But it covers quite a big area of your time because it glides on through there and comes out the other end, and it's an interesting shape we've got there. And that pendulum will weigh on your left-hand side, balancing your emotional side with how you do things, with what you see, with how you feel about other things, with your life in general. It becomes like this nice big balance that stops you from tipping over. Okay. So as you go forward and you try to take hold or deal with behaviors, you'll find it gets easier and easier and easier over time as you get more understanding of this is why I feel this way. Oh, it's got nothing to do with that. All right, then I can get a deal on that. I can sort that out, or I don't have to criticize myself for that. Now, when we get to the 6 months, I know there's a lot more over here, but I don't know what time's like, but as these things do take time, we've got this part here I want to talk about. If I miss bits, we can catch up privately, us guys. That's not for everybody else. If you like, so we can pick up those bits that I may not have time to cover today. But this bit does concern me, and I would suggest we are looking at a shoulder injury. Is most likely not because of its position, because the position is timely, but it comes away from the body in such a way that a shoulder, upper arm injury, there's something to do with the way that you go about something, and it feels like it lasts about 3 months for you. The good news is knowing something like this doesn't necessarily prevent it from happening. It's probably going to be a fall or a knock of some sort. That's what it feels like as I'm looking at your energy, looking at you, not the picture. But the interesting thing is that oddly, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Right. But it only lasts for that period of time. So you've got this 3-month period where it's an issue. After your first month of an injury, usually we're starting to think this is bad. It should be gone by now. But I'm thinking that's the process for you. It's going to take about that 3 months to come right. But it does, and it's completely gone at that point. It may be associated too with what you're learning over here, because they plunk in and they cross over in timeline. On the left side, you see all these little dots like pebbles. They're rows. You will be seeking a lot of advice, a lot of guidance through that period of time. That can be medical professionals too, by the way. That's not necessarily anything but guidance and advice. And there's this dark green. Now, these dark greens are stress and worry, stress and worry, stress and worry. Makes sense if you've got an injury. Quite often, stress and worry come on the other side of that. If you can develop that so it's not stress and worry, you'll be in a lot better position to help your body heal. Okay, anxiety does not help healing. It does not help it at all. Being frustrated with yourself and what you can and can't do does not help at all. So if we start thinking about accepting what happens there, and that it's going to take about 3 months to come right, and know inside yourself, and this is the true benefit of this kind of reading, if you know at the start this is going to be gone in about 3 months, you'll be a lot better getting through it anyway, won't you? Mm-hmm. Instead of worrying about, oh, now it's never going to work right again. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can only type with one finger.
And that does sound like me. You know me. I'm like, Miss Worrywart. Yeah.
Worrywart. These up to the other side here, these three blues you see in a soft pink, they're actually precursor energies. They're not fully developed, but the 3 blues over the next 6 months, I think that you are going to have a very strong influence that is spiritual, that there will be messages coming to you. But some of that's really very much about the past, whether you are into the past life thing. I know that you've got the ghost hunting thing going on, but this feels to be entities as in individuals, and it feels past, way past. So you may fire up and do a bit of historical research in certain areas, and you will be guided literally to do so. So that's always an interesting factor. Now, as we move down to this right hand, because, you know, the left side of the picture is your right hand. Did you know that on Tumblr, I had a whole pile of aura pictures, and this little underlady here, I took her nipples off and her other bits so that she wouldn't be sexual. I just did, but she still had to be a girl, and I made Brian a girl. But Brian, I've got a boy one. I just did you as a girl. So there's which is really bad, I suppose. But because usually I like to show boys as boys because it encourages guys to come and get their own thing done. But I just thought I'd take the mickey, really.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Dorothy. So as we're looking at this right hand, this is creativity and productivity, and it's all around this light movie character. So you're very accepting of what you can do at that point, and you just get on with business, and that goes on for a couple of years. I don't know if you've been thinking about starting your own business, because this doesn't materialize till about 14, 15 months. It looks like maybe 15 months. The suggestion's really strong that if it's something in the back of your mind or something you've wanted, you haven't started any action on it at this point. And you may not have thought of it, but I've got this sort of feeling that something may have crossed your mind now and again. With this, it's very much getting a handle on what you want to do, and I do see a monetary gain from it, but it feels a very creative and focused drive. And as you can see, it just goes boom, boom, boom. And that's a lot of effort being put out there. As you look at that, you can see there are other people involved. It's the 3 little lights that are above one of those orange balls. Those are other people that are involved. So that can be partnerships or co-workers or somebody you have to work with. Quite an interesting energy, and it'll be interesting to see how it comes through. Now, when it's in balls like this and not just a direct line like the lime green over there, it usually means it's stages of development. So we've got something pushing out. There's an initial drive, and you're feeling really good about it. That's what that mauve is. It's I know what I'm doing. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and it's covering your base chakra coming through at that time as well. So as it's coming through that time, I'm prepared for this. You know, I've spent my whole life being prepared for this. There's that feeling around it. Otherwise, I would have just avoided the body part, and then we would have got banned or something. There's this wonderful mishmash underneath your pendulum base on your left-hand side, the right-hand side of the photo, and this is very much going with the flow. That's what I like about that. It's sort of like its own little, what do you call it, galaxy, I guess, or solar system, and it's just going with the flow emotionally. What happens, happens, and I feel really good about that. When you've got the 2 sides to that energy, that means basically you're giving yourself permission to do whatever whatever you want to do, whatever you need to do to get the result that you would like. Okay. How's that for interesting? We've got this under the foot as well. The feet, usually when I put something under there, says this is the direction I'm taking, and you're not going to get off that direction. It's a really long line. Although I only go up to the 2-year mark, pretty much it just kept going when I was looking at it. So it shoots out of the picture there. I really strongly believe that it's a personal endeavor and that it's a business. Whether you take a job that you really love or whether you create a job that you would really like, as in a business, I'm not 100% sure. What I know is that it just fits you perfectly at that time and you feel really, really good about it. Yay. How nice is that?
Yeah, well, that's really interesting that you say all this, because I've been thinking, lately, because my youngest is going to be starting school soon. So I'll be empty nest, and I've been thinking, God, what am I going to do with myself?
So like what am just starting.
Yeah. I literally just started thinking about it like a week ago. Like, what am I going to do? So, yeah.
And so that's coming in to not fruition, but initiation anyway, at about 14 months, it feels like. I'm going to say 14 months in there somewhere where you go, that's it. That's what I want to do. And away you go. And you just don't deviate. You just get in there and get stuck in, and away you are. So very nice. Are you happy with that? That's a future projection.
Yes, thank you. Love it.
There are often, when I do these, there's often some what I call random information that comes, because I don't usually do them live like this. So that gives me time to let random things come in. Honestly, I swear to God, I see a broken letterbox. I feel bad about it. And it's a real... Yeah, trust me, I'm very literal. This is not an imagination thing going on. So I don't know if you've got a letterbox that can be broken, or whether at some point you need to watch your driving, whether you back into somebody's or drive into somebody's. There's no use looking up to the heavens because it's in the future. I'm just saying. It's in the future. When it happens, hate me all you like, I didn't cause it, but it feels like it's within the 6 months frame. Yeah. It feels like it's within the next 6 months. It does. And so those are the other things usually that I call random images that come in. I usually just list them, I type them out listed under the picture and under the actual diagnosis. And there are other things too. If you might want to write these down, if you in the recording, you may want to.
Yeah.
And in the recording, yeah. So we've got the broken.
You just read my damn mind. That's so funny. You just read my mind. I was just gonna say I'm gonna go listen to the archive and write all this down. And
I've also got the number 286 or 246. So that's got to be said. And I've also got a what looks to me to be a medium height blondie. Not you. Just be quiet there, miss, down in the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah. So a medium height blondie who really fires you up. You're going to have the biggest fight that you've had in a long time, or yeah, I know. I'm looking at the faces and I'm like, oh, this is so fun. It's like eyebrows going up, mouths are dropping. I'm not saying you're causing it either, but this conflict gets way out of hand. And so my advice when it starts, I think that might be even closer. When this starts or when it gets out of hand, my advice to you is to simply talk to your friends here and say, what do you think, and listen to what they think. If they tell you to cut and run, cut and run. If they tell you that, they'll support you and hang in there, hang in there. But I just see it really like, when you see fire bolts coming out of everywhere, well, that's what I'm looking at with it. Literally everywhere, spraying everywhere. So that means if you get spritzed about something, it means you can't stop thinking about it. Those things, hey, when you don't like conflict and you're in one and it just preys on your mind all the time, it feels to last quite a while. I'm thinking easy over 6 to 8 weeks maybe. And so think very carefully about it. And if this advice allows you to see it starting, you may be able to head it off at the pass, because I'm a strong believer. Information has a purpose, and the purpose is to allow you to use that information to make that situation better for you.
So when I say you... Sorry, go ahead.
I think within about 3 months time, maybe 3 to 4 months. It's before the 6 months period as well.
A shorter blonde-haired person.
Yeah, blonde hair. Yeah. Medium build, I think, not necessarily short. Medium build, blonde hair. And I think natural, but I couldn't be 100% sure these days. It's impossible to tell. But when it comes up, it's somebody you'll recognize by putting all those things together, right? You'll go, oh, and I even get your whole brain not wanting to refer to anything in the past because I really think it's new. Here we go again. That's the feeling I've got. Yeah. So it's like a similar feeling, but not the same person. Yeah. If that helps. So really quite an interesting thing, and it's coming your way because you've got that information. One hopefully thinks that you'll be able to cut yourself down out of that without too much input, too much influence, too much damage for you. When I do this kind of reading, just be clear for everybody, even though I will consider another person, the only person I really care about is the person I'm doing the reading for, that they get the best out of their next moments. Okay? That's you done, Suzie. Any questions?
Thank you. No,
and there will be more, but time-wise.
Yeah, I'll listen to it on the archive, and if I have any questions, I'll ask. But I'm gonna write everything down and go over it. So,
Just
but
go.
thank you.
Thank you. Look at
So let's go this one next. If you want to do this one,
you just whatever you put up. You put up, I'll do it.
I'll save mine until the second half.
Yeah, good as gold.
So we got Christina.
We've got Christina. So I'll just click mine up because the internet YouTube thing's a little bit behind you. I'll just click my picture up for Christina. And then we'll go for a listener after that. I think, just mix them up a little bit. Christina, I've got to watch your face. Hang on, I've got to move my window. It's like, it was just so good watching everybody's eyebrows raise and mouths open. And Caitlyn's the best. She's got the most expressive face. She's like, oh my God, the world's going to end. The sky is falling. I could almost imagine her as that little Miss Henny Penny, It's beautiful.
Especially when you were dealing with the saying about the conflict.
Yeah. She was just like, oh my gosh, no. So Christina's going to be there in a second. Now, she's like suddenly worried. We've got these two bright red areas up here. It's a broken message. It's a broken past. It's a broken area. When you think about something, if you think in this particular area, it's bright red, it's passionate, but we've got this dark purple around the back of it. So this is somebody feeling like they're right, okay? It could be you, but it could be the other person or people as well, or the situation. You could feel like there's no other way to look at it. So it's not about ego, it's more about not quite knowing where to go. Interestingly, this should be a cone. So if you can imagine it as a cone and that we've lifted the top off and turned it around a little bit, that's what it would be actually, like a cornucopia. So you can't get to the results because it's like there's this break in between. There's some misunderstood area. There's an area that you just can't get past. Does that make sense to you? When you can't get past something, you sort of find yourself recycling that same feeling, that same thought about it again and again. Because it's red and bright in the middle, I think you do really try to take the higher thought, the higher attitude, the higher, but it gets you down, I think. I think it gets you down in quiet moments and when you're not really ready for the thought, or when you're feeling a bit down or tired or not well, boom, in it comes. And there's that, here we go again in my mind, I want to say, and I just can't. And I think those are the words that just keep coming around, is I just can't get past it. And I can't get past this. So that would be something to really think about and have a look on. Now, you see the bright orange we've got on the side of the head here? On the right side, I'm circling it as if you can see me again. It's like I wave to people, when I'm talking to them on the phone. Bye, and my little hand's going bye-bye. So with this orange on the side, you're trying to be creative. So I do think you try to think your way around this emotionally, like, maybe because you've been taught things, we've all taught spiritual things that go, maybe I should just this, or I shouldn't think this way because, and it's a whole lot of stuff going on there, but I don't think it's helping you. So if I was you, I'd just stop that. Just stop it. It's still with you quite strongly, and because it's so prevalent, it's overriding or filtering everything else within that 6-month time period. So it may get more intense for you if it isn't already intense. We've got a little bit of indigo down by your jawline on the left-hand side, and it gets very dark as we go up. You absorb energy around this and around maybe loved ones as well. That might be something for you to think about as well. If it's theirs, it's theirs, you know. If they're not happy, they're not happy. It's not your responsibility. Now, you can care for somebody and empathize with them without necessarily feeling somehow vaguely responsible for how they got that way. Just for example, in homes where you've got violence, where you've got children, quite often siblings feel guilty because the other sibling got the hiding or got the bad damage when they didn't, you know, that sort of thing. And it's an impossible thing. You're just not in control of that. So maybe that's something for you to have a little think about, the relationship between those two. I think you can get a handle on it. And I think that when we get through to our 7-8 month period from now, you will be starting to look at this. This is a teal color or aquamarine, take your pick. That color is one of coming to terms with things, and usually that's coming to terms with yourself, coming to terms with others, because it goes all the way across your body. You're going to find yourself espousing the advice based on the things that you've learned for yourself and how that affects you. It's hard energy, there's no way of getting away from that, but it's very much constructive at this point. I've also got around you here too, see this gap between the right hand side, left hand side of the picture and the next ball, the next sort of teal ball, and they get brighter and brighter as they go through the emotion. You're less satisfied with how you're dealing with things at that time than how you feel with it. So there's sort of a correlation between the two, but you're going to be constantly telling yourself, I could do better, I could do better, I could do better. You might be able to do better, but don't overdo the criticism. That's what I got for that. Don't overdo the criticism. If we can look at doing something better, are you studying too through that period, do you know? Through the period from 6 months to 12 months from now. I've got study, I've got actual markings, I've got actual application of information. Yes. So that probably has a lot to do with all of that as much as anything else. It's a constant through that whole period of time. So I would suggest if you feel you can do better, the better way to deal with that, or the best way to deal with that, is to look at how could I do better? Is my time management needing a bit of a look? Am I perhaps not focused on the right thing? Do I need different material to get me to the right space? That kind of stuff. And I think that you'll be quite happy. It takes up that whole period of time as the forefront. So it's not everything that goes on, but for this level of reading, it's the forefront. So it's your main drive through that period. Kicking in towards the bottom there, this is fun. You see this like a Y, almost like a scorpion in this beautiful lilac color. I really like that for you. There's 3 flowing outs of that. That's 3 individuals or 3 areas of your life, and you just start powering into those. Have you ever broken a bone in your arm?
I've not broken a bone, but I recently had surgery.
Oh, okay. That'll do.
On my left arm and left elbow.
Okay, so that's okay. I just picked it up, so no drama. This is surgery. You will get past it. That's what this red is over here, by the way. See the red blobs? That's in the body part, and saying, you know, there's been some trauma to that area of the body. The lilac ones are quite interesting, because I like that it's just like you're looking at, this sounds bizarre, but you're looking at everything with love in your eyes for a period of time through that. Just towards the end of the 12 months, it means you're feeling confident, you're feeling happy, you like everybody that's around you, you know, you're really not worried about it at all. And because you're in your productive phase, it's in your right hand side and your right side, you just take that forward a long way forward. It doesn't necessarily match into the whole of the 2 years, or it does get to the 2 years, but it doesn't keep on going necessarily, but that's not a bad thing. It just says it's a constant for you from probably about 9 months to about 20 months from now, 22 months from now. And so as you are looking at that and you're thinking about that, when a person feels generous and magnanimous, that's usually the funnest times of their lives, to be honest. That's when things just go right, People like them, you feel attractive, you feel like you're enjoying life, you feel like the people around you are all supportive, all the right things. So I really like that energy for you, and it lasts a long time, which is really supportive. On the other side with the little red dots, so obviously you'll come past that. You see that there's a total end to that by the 18 months. It moves out from the body. All these other little blue dots are still related to this 6-month period. That's where you may have to either finish off whatever training that you're doing or find a way to use it. But there's that, it's an emotional feeling energy here. Is okay, I've got this under my belt. Now what am I going to do with it? And unfortunately, I see it about 20 months, it comes back into full score. So that usually means that at that point, you're using it the way that you wanted to use it when you learned it, okay, whatever that might be that you're learning. But there's a lot of applications. All these dots are, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And none of them really stand out till you get to that 20-month zone. And then it's like, okay, now I know what it is I want to do. And you'll see the line of that is exactly in the timeline of this yellow over here. And that yellow circle is one of great optimism. And it's very localized. So it's knowing that leads to that optimism. These slightly gray colors down here, believe it or not, are you ready? Stubbornness. Now I know what I want to do. Don't anybody get in my way. And so that's determination, stubbornness. Stubbornness isn't a bad energy. People like to treat it that way. But I've got to tell you that if I have a determined person on my side, I can only have a stubborn person opposing me. That's how that works. So when a person is stubborn and they're on your side, you're like, thank God they're in my corner. When they're opposing you, it's like, I just can't get past this person. And so same energy, different application. It feels really nice. Now, it's straight that you can't see in there. They're very, very faint. The yellows are coming through. You can see a little bit here. They're all going to turn bright yellow. If I'm reading you at 20 months, I'm going to just see all these bright yellow balls all around your feet and your legs and all around that whole energy. And it's like, this is what I'm doing. It's going to be so good, man. You're going to make everybody sick with your enthusiasm, and you're just going to have all of the best thoughts about how that could go. So I just think that's a really, really nice thing for you. That feels career-oriented as well, by the way, and utilizing what you know in a way that feels really good for you. I've got also to say that coming back up to these little red dots, part of that is a conflict when you have like the arm surgery and stuff like that, is a conflict in how am I going to do what I want to do. And you may have felt like walls were put up in front of you in the past, whether it was your own mental, emotional walls, confidence, or other people actively saying, you're too dumb to do this, you can't do that, or nobody does this, or why would you want to, there's a lot of naysayers in the world when we start expressing our dreams. And if we've got a few of them around us, or one important one around us, it's very difficult to feel comfortable with what our choices are. And it's always a shame. I've got to say, it's always a shame. So that's you. Have you got any questions about that, Ms. Christine?
Well, I've always wanted to be a private investigator, and I've really been looking into it. Like, good. And like, I've been at my job that I'm at right now for 21 years, but it's something that I really want to pursue because it's just always been my passion,
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I have definitely been looking into that. So hopefully,
there's no hopeful. It's going, baby. So there's a little bit of time around that before you nail it. There's a learning, obviously. So clearly, if you need to do something and it requires training, you better do the training or it's never going to happen. But I would say that that's the key for you, and it's going to put yourself there. This purple spot that hits in before the 12 months, at about the 9-10 months, it's because I believe at that point you know exactly what you can do rather than hope and wish and pray. It's not a secret dream anymore. You put it out there on YouTube.
Thank you,
I say go for it. I could see you being very, very good at something like that. Research. That's your bottom line. If I was looking at you, it's always like, that's the girl for the research. She's going to dig her head into there, and she's not coming up to breathe until she's got to 6 million pages and going. She's not coming up for air. So...
Yeah,
wonderful.
We have a question in chat, Dorothy.
Sure.
Willow Paranormal says, as a child, about 4, I used to be able to see what I think was my aura. Not that I knew that name then, but then as I got older, I could no longer see it. Is this common in children at young ages?
Well, personally, I think so. Nobody can really prove that it is, but I've had children come up to me before and ask what certain colours mean. I had a little boy at a psychic fair come up one day when I had my camera there, and he just said, "What does it mean when there's red across my mummy's eyes?" He said, "It scares me when I see it." And I said, "It means she's angry, so I can understand why you would be scared." So she wasn't beating her child, but he was seeing that. When it comes to aura, I don't think it's taught out of us, like we're trained out of it. I think we just have a priority in life. A lot of people, I think, get flashes of auras during their life at different times, and they dismiss it or say they don't need it. As babies, you'll notice babies look at line, they look at edges, they don't look at a face, they look at the side of your head, they look at the shoulders. If you're wearing bright print clothes, not just a big bright color but bright print clothes, they tend to look at the edges of the print. They are very adept at seeing the difference between one thing and the next, and they're learning to see color at that time, literally learning to see color, because we're born they can only see gray, right? So they're just sort of seeing in black and white, and so as they're developing that skill, the more color they see, the better. So I have no doubts that they see aura at that stage, and then when it comes to the let's get up and walk around stage, they realize that the colors are a whole lot less important than that little item in front of them that they're going to fall over, bang into, hurt themselves on, and so the focus becomes to personal safety. But I don't think it's a skill we lose. Interestingly, I try to explain this in aura classes by showing, there's a video on YouTube called "Did You See the Moon Walking Bear?" Go look at it. The title of it alone gives you a clue. When we give our brain a task, it does that task to the exclusion of all else. And we had a big incentive here a number of years back. You probably have it every country where you've got cars in a city. There's intersection accidents, and the one person that pulls out will always say, "I looked, I just didn't see anything," and everybody's like, "Nah, liar, pants on fire." But the truth is, it's probably happened to all of us. Even if we didn't have an accident, we've had that moment where we know we looked. And so when you pull out of a they call it change blindness is another word for it. When you pull out of an intersection and there's never anybody there, normally you're doing it at 5 o'clock in the morning, next minute you're doing it through traffic time, or you're still doing it at the same time, somebody's coming towards you, you see what you expect to see. It is so real, it is scary, it should be scary, and we can't teach it out of people. We simply can't teach you not to do that. So we ask you to take extra precautions. That's why we've got stop signs in certain places, not just give way signs. It's a stop sign to force you to stop and look properly. A give way sign suggests that you should slow down and look, but it doesn't force you to stop. Now, back in the day, this was quite effective because we all had gears in our cars. So stopping meant we had to disengage our gear stick and re-engage it. Now in a modern world, we don't have to do any of that. We just push a pedal and carry on. And so the accidents around stop signs and give way signs are now about the same ratio, believe it or not. And so if you're on a rural road, you're more likely to bang into somebody at an intersection than in a city road where you expect to see things. You expect things to come out of nowhere. You expect people to be idiots and not know how to drive and not know how to indicate. You're expecting all of that. And so you've given your brain a message to be ready for anything. When you're in that quieter road all the time, you expect to see nothing, and there's no warning signs going on for your brain. And it's just like, yeah, nothing there, off we go. And then you will start to pull out, very often is what happens to most of us. And then you see it because your brain goes into alert mode. You're going to die. And so it spots the vehicle bearing down on you. And you push your foot hard to that accelerator, flip yourself forward and freak yourself out and think, I looked, I didn't see anything. So this is one of the methods I teach people. I think we see aura all the time. It's just that we've put it to the back burner from our visual cortex, okay, from that perspective. When when students come to learn aura, I always say you're not actually learning to see aura, you're reminding yourself that you can see it. And so you're giving your brain a trigger. You're saying, I want to take notice of that now. Trust me, if I'm walking down a busy road and wanting to cross the road, I'm not going to see anybody's aura. I'm just going to see cars. I'm just going to see things that will hurt me. And so clearly there's a time when it's inappropriate to see lots of pretty things and be away with the fairies, So it's that understanding, Willow. And if you work out that most people never even hear the word auras or colors or anything like that till they get a bit older. So I don't believe religion trains it out of kids because they don't even think about it. Nobody thinks about it. Later on, they might get upset if the kid says they see things, but they seem, that's a bit later on, and usually you'll remember that. The other thing about patterning, there was a waterfall in Japan in a shopping mall. Beautiful thing. I've finished with Christina's. If you want to put the next one up, ready to rock and roll there, Bri. Beautiful thing. And what they've done is they've got controlled water drops, and they run down these nylon fibers, and so they can run water down these things in patterns and shapes. There can be, there can be words, there can be a dolphin, and all of this sort of stuff. It's again on YouTube somewhere. The thing is, it shows you that we can have a controlled emission of energy, and that shows me, or it shows students, how you can see energy moving very quickly or taking a shape like a diagonal or pushing out, or like a funnel like Christina's got up there. These things happen by the way we're pulsing that energy out there, and at what speed. Light moves at 180,000 miles per second. It's not slow. So if there's even not even a fraction, it doesn't even have to be a millisecond of a second, there will be a pulse. And that's how you can see something is faster moving or slower moving. I've often thought about colors themselves, and the fact that, all light is all colors. And so we're disseminating that, and we're altering its actual sine wave. So the speed's the same, but it has a bigger wave or a lesser wave. So who's noticed that if you get suddenly angry, I'm sure this will be a lot of people, suddenly upset, suddenly something scary, you feel your whole skin, everything sort of seems to stand on end, and you become very sensitive. Like you can almost feel things pricking at the back of your neck, whatever that might be. That is the nature of particle movement. And so as your cells emit light from your body at that 180,000 miles per second, by the way, the biophotonic emissions is a scientific name for it. They are so subtle that they are hard to pick up, but they have been measured and they are known. If you think about the sine wave of that sudden energy burst of light, what happens then is that's what makes everything stand on end, because it's moving everything on its way out. It's like this, whoa, because the energy idea is to push against anything that might be putting you in danger. And so we get the sudden, I call it high alert. Everything goes on high alert. You could hear a pin drop 5 miles away, sort of a thing, and you could feel the movement of a breeze 5 meters away, and so on and so on. And you could see a shadow move within a shadow, which you normally couldn't. And depending on where your focus is, that determines your level of sensitivity. It's to save your life, basically. Mostly it's not going to have to do that, but that's what it's for. Was that fun?
Yes.
That is great. We're going to go ahead, and it is a little after the top of the hour. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we get back, we'll go ahead and do Caitlyn, and then we can do a person in chat.
I don't have a picture for Caitlyn.
What about Justin?
Yeah, Justin. We got Justin. We got
Justin, Zoe, Lisa, and Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy. I'm not sure where Doris is, because we had one for Doris, but I don't think she's in chat.
Oh, if she's not in chat, we'll just leave her until lasty or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start with one of our chatters.
Yeah, we'll stay with people that are here live.
Okay.
But yeah, the chat has sent us their photos, so we'll give that a go.
Okay, and we're going to break.
All right, be back at 5. I was really confused.
Okay.
Yes.
I really want to be a private investigator, y'all.
And that's what I wanted to do a long time ago, like when I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
And then I found out, okay.
You just mentioned that on YouTube Live. So now you put that out there.
What? Oh, we're live. Are we live?
We're live, yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to Haunting the Afterlife Radio. We have been talking with the magnificent Dorothy Holder. Love her.
Yay.
We've been doing some future projections, and now we're going to move on to some aura readings. And first up is the lovely Zoe, my daughter. So take it away, Dorothy.
Hiya, Zoe, and welcome back, everybody, including myself. Zoe, we've got a lot of colour going on here, so you would change your mind a lot. The things that you think about in one day are not necessarily the things that concern you the next day, so anybody who overinvests in that may find themselves left out in the cold at some point wondering what the heck's going on. So I find that kind of interesting. It means that you move past things very quickly, you tend not to hold a grudge for too long, and when somebody does upset you a little bit, then you're likely to just I can think of something else or do something else. So you're very good at switching your mind into more productive zones, if you like. We'll start with this bright pink up the top on the left-hand side of the picture, and it moves down to the right-hand side there. That's very much actually that you are concerned with money. Money, money, money. How do I get it? How much have I got? And what am I going to do with it? I don't know if you're a really good saver or not, but it progresses down to how you feel about things. So I find that a little bit interesting. Now, in spiritual circles, thinking about money seems to honestly be denigrated a lot of the time. You know, it's a put down, it's something you shouldn't think about. Well, rubbish to that. We can't live without it. It's the same to me as focusing on growing the grass, growing the wheat, growing the apples, it's the same thing. You do what you need to do for reward. So this also means that you may be centered on reward. Mother will tell us if this is true. If there's a tendency to do things saying, what'll I get if I do it, maybe something that's big for you at times. We've got this beautiful mustardy orange. You can get quite worried about things. I don't think it's about yourself. I think you worry about other people a lot. Worry about whether they're okay, worried about whether they'll get by, even if there's nothing you can do about it. There seems to be this worry. You might find yourself coming home, because I can see you're quite young. You might even find yourself coming home from school one day and telling your folks or your family or your friends about this poor kid at school who blah, 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 and you're worried if they'll be okay, even if you don't know them and have absolutely zero control.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's what that predominant energy is. Now we've got these three dull reds that go from your ear. When you don't want to hear something, you're pretty good at not hearing it. And I think that's almost a skill that you've taken to the next level, like it's a master level of, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You can sort of get around it quite well. And then it gets really dull as it comes into your left arm. Usually this is a color that's going to represent somebody in your past, somebody who you've been upset with, somebody who you feel like you've been hurt, let down by, and it still rankles. It's something that still affects you a bit. And I don't hear it, but seems to be more about them than anything else. You don't want to hear anything bad, even if you don't know anything good. It's an interesting energy right there, and that dark brown around it is actually a dark brown around it. And so I think that's something you may be looking at dealing with at some point in the future. Nothing too horrible at this stage. You're really good at learning from your mistakes, like really good. When you know you've made a mistake, you're pretty quick to fess up to it most of the time. Nobody's perfect. But when you see the connection between something not going well for you with something you've done or said, I think you're pretty quick at changing that and seeing, well, maybe it's partly my fault too, which I think is really balanced. I like that a lot. It covers both parts of your head, straight above your head and way off to the left. So it's a really balanced energy. And I think one day that's going to serve you incredibly well. You may find yourself desiring to be in an adjudicating position, whether that's in social welfare, looking after children, making sure families are doing the right thing. That seems to be the orientation. I know you're young, but I see that way up in your future, and looking for the best and fairest solution for them. So you may find yourself wanting to be a child's advocate, for example, in cases where couples are fighting or causing causing problems. A very big deal. This big mustardy color in the middle is going to drive that, and it's going to end up slap bang in the middle of these two aqua colors, and you're going to find yourself trying to find the best thing for a third party, if that makes sense. So that's quite an interesting energy. We've got the lime just above your head here with a little purple infusion coming across your head, and then it comes down over your shoulder and into your heart. It cracks me up a little bit because it's not second guessing, but I think you're quite capable of saying, but blah, blah said blah, blah, if it's opposing what a person in authority tells you. That would be to say for your mum would be like, but my teacher said, or Mrs. Robinson said, or my friend Katie said, da, 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 da. Quite an interesting thing. All the while you're learning and experimenting. It's not really smart ass. Looking at this, did I say that out loud? Yes, I did. So looking at this energy coming down, and that it comes to the heart, it is a learning process for you. It's testing theories out. There are other people's theories, but it's testing them against the people who have authority around you. So you are quite happy to call somebody to order if you think they're wrong, even if you're wrong in doing so, if that makes sense. So there's very much an interesting energy with that. It's not directly argumentative, but I think eventually it will become a very debatable type energy, and it will match up with this advocating. You need to be able to be affirmative in the things that you say to somebody if you're going to advocate for a third party, by the way. It just makes sense, right? So this is all learning and how people say what they think they know, and whether it's true, whether it isn't. You're very much in that zone at the moment of saying what somebody else says to work out really what comes back at you about that. Interesting. Developmental, nothing's wrong with that. See how you've got this mustard up here and this mustard down there? There's what we call a feminine masculine aspect of our chakras outside our body, some of them. Not all of them, but some of them. And these ones are above our shoulders, and they're like a seesaw. When one's up, the other one's down, and that's their normal position. When we're exercising our masculine, that is our productive, we're doing, we're saying, it's not just thinking, then that side is up. And when we're accessing our feminine, that's our intuitive, what we feel, grasping around, then that side's going to be the dominant side goes up. So they're like a seesaw. One's up, the other one's down. They're never on a level. If they are, a person's going to be very, very confused. So this is an interesting thing because your feminine's way up there, that side, that's the mustard side. And so that's that some people might call it empathic for you, but it's not really. It feels like recognition. You may feel like, I know what this person's going through. I know how they're feeling, but it's not empathic insofar as I'm feeling it with them. It's more of, I know what they're feeling. It's very clinical, which is why you'll take that to a professional degree. So I quite like that for you. These very bright turquoisey aquas, I'm calling them aquas, turquoise. I'm sort of wandering between the few because I know that they change slightly depending on how you feel. They're like your mood ring. If your mum could watch these, she'd know exactly where you were at in any moment. Any moment. They are just like that. And you can see where these ones come with the purple. Well, they gradiate from that bright color all the way through to a dark purple, by the way, depending on her moods. That will probably disappear over time when she's less, what's the word, responsive to how she feels, I guess. How old is Zoe? Is she coming up to teenagehood?
She is 11.
So she's in that age where, you know, everything's at play there. So this, I think, will sort of disappear over time. But at the moment, it goes from I know better than you know, down and all the way back to, yeah, I do really understand. I think she's probably pretty good at apologizing. And she will develop that as time goes by. Not because she's wrong all the time or anything, but just because she understands that. Again, we go back to I know what it feels like if somebody doesn't apologize to you or if somebody treats you badly. She's got that I know how it feels thing going on. And she's going to develop and keep developing that until she's in a position that she can be a sound voice. Her voice will become very strong. She'll be a sound voice for those who need her assistance. I really like that future for her. It matches her. It suits her. Education-wise, she'll take herself into that zone where she can do that. We've got these little light colors. I don't know if you can see the cerise pink down here. It's got a little bit of mauve over the top of it, and then it's this sort of pale cream over here. She has absolute moments of clarity, this girl. You know, it doesn't matter how confused she gets about things at times, and all kids do. You know, that's not exceptional. There's moments where she just sees right through all of it, and it's almost like she'll look right through you, and it's like, oh, again, we come back to I know what's going on here. So there's those moments of absolute clarity. She may not understand everything around it at the stage of her life, but she knows something's going on. She's going to keep building that and building that as she gets older until it becomes a cohesive package. So she's going to be an interesting one, and I really wouldn't want to be standing across the courtroom. And yes, I did say courtroom from her when she's advocating for somebody. So there you go. So that means she'll become very good at that kind of looking for the best solution, but not a justice solution like as in the court system, as justice for a person, the best thing for a particular individual. So I do think that's really interesting. It doesn't feel like groups, and that's why I'm sort of radiating at the stage. It could change as we go through, but I'm radiating to like the broken wings, the children at risk, the kids that need help, the ones that can't speak for themselves, the ones that are maybe getting messed up in divorces. They all get assigned a legal or somebody to stand up for them. And so I think she's going to be that person.
Wow.
That's her career in a nutshell. Decided for her when she was 11 by Dorothy Holder. And we have Justin. Double click that so I got my big picture up. Justin, now he's interesting. It looks like a tough dude, but I see a soft character. Sorry, Justin. I see a guy who's pretty smooth and takes things mostly as they come. You're the kind of guy who wants people to just be who they are. And if you don't really like it, you're more likely to just sort of distance yourself a little bit. You don't feel a need to change people. I don't think that you feel a need for other people to please you, if that makes sense. In fact, you may go out of your way to let them know they just need to be themselves. They don't need to try and please you. And that's how you are happiest with them around you. You've got this big, bright pink above your head, and it's reflected with a more red infused pink to the right of your heart. I don't know if you've experienced any blood pressure issues or heart issues. I've got to say that I think that there is something, if it's probably coming forward for you, if it isn't already noticed there. And if I was you, I would probably have a look at that. Certainly be aware of it going forward. And if you have a look coming down to your right arm, there's a little bit of red thrown through into there. It's under your arm and it comes into the side of your body. So we're in that heart, lung, liver area. We've got a little triangle almost going on there. So I would be a little bit focused on there and think a little bit about if you don't feel 100% at times, if you feel there's a lot of ways that this, when you're younger especially, that it manifests. It can manifest as a slight dizziness. It can manifest as feeling a bit sick, just a little bit vaguely nauseous, or not feeling comfortable after eating but not full, just feeling a little bit sick after. I want to say crook, but then everybody goes, why'd you call him a crook? Crook in Kiwi speak means sick, just saying. So, and it means also a shyster, but we know what we're talking about. So it's that feeling there. Now, because we've got the rose in there, we've got that lovely rose. It's also like the lavender color. There's that real need in you to guide others, to help others, to be a part of their lives or a positive influence in their lives, I think. And that comes from your heart. And maybe you don't always get the love back, or maybe it's somehow you feel that I'm not sure how to put this the right way, because it's not a negative feeling, but it just sort of feels like doing for oneself, no matter what one puts out there. It could come from your past as well, but I would definitely pay attention to that. We've got a lot of this yellow. Now, it's slightly mustard, but actually it's because I can't make gold. It's something that drives me nuts. I wish I could make a nice, beautiful gold. So this is really gold coming through here. It's a constant theme through your throat, through your way up in your nethers, over your shoulders, down your side. It comes into your solar plexus. It covers intention, and it's all to the right of the picture as well, in behind the greens and the sage. That sage green, by the way, is the counselor. It comes from your left side all the way over to the right, and it transforms as it goes over. It goes from sage, comes into the gold. That green straight above your head we'll talk about in a little bit, and then it comes back down, and it sort of almost comes into this lovely turquoisey color to the left here. The past to the future is very important for you, learning from your past, but also I think maybe past lives. Understanding the history of a person, the history of the ancestry would be quite important to you, and knowing that by understanding that you can make yourself or your Whānawa's family, your your tribe, your group, your nation, whatever it might be on whatever level, you understand that that can make people stronger, as having a strong grounding and understanding. And where that you do sweat the details, this is this bit up here, this dark green bit. I'm using my cursor as if you can see it again. This dark green straight above your head is sweating the details. It's fairly transparent, so it's not really bad at all. It just means that details are important to you. You're not going to miss a liar, let's put it that way. You're not going to miss when a person has this inconsistencies. You're not going to judge them for it. There's definitely no judgment in you about that, but you're not going to miss it. So it will determine the level of trust, I suppose, or type of relationship you have, that kind of thing. With the gold, I didn't tell you what that's about. It's a transformational energy. You may have found yourself transformed or transforming over a period of years. It's very well developed. That means you're always working to be better. You're always working to be the person you want to be. Nobody's perfect, but we know that you're always going there. I always say, God, when you hear the terms God loves a trier, the basic reason for that is because we all do. Anybody can make mistakes, but if you're honest, if you're trying to work it out, if you're trying to be the best you can be, you'll be forgiven for just about anything that you've ever done. The sage green being the counseling energy means that giving advice is something you're quite comfortable to do, you like to do. It's a wonderful energy as it runs all the way over your head, and so you will always be trying to advise people for their betterment, I guess is the way I can put that. This is the energy that you see in counselors. Some teachers, not all teachers have this one. Not all teachers want to be guides per se. It's definitely one you see in spiritual teachers, people who want other people to learn from their experiences, not just there's rose guidance. This is the coming from the heart. That's like, I believe that you can be better, do better. I can advise you in life. This green sage is, well, I'm going to listen to what you've got to say, and from that I'll be able to help you do something better for yourself or gain something in your life. The green, that same green comes out of your left upper arm and into the left side of your chest. This is the life that you breathe, quite literally. If there's nobody for you to help, I think that you'd go crazy. You just go mad, round and round and round in circles. It's like, I need an outlet. You're always looking for an outlet, some way that I can bring this forward. This is the sort of energy that's really good at running groups, whatever group that might be, but getting a group of people together and saying, let's all do this together, would be really powerful for you. The more people that you can get a message across to or put it out to, the better you feel. And it's almost like, it's a compulsion, if that makes sense as well. It's the life that lungs for you, it's the air that you breathe, but it's also that it's compulsive. It's always, I got to do it. I'm pretty sure you could probably compete with me on the talking front just by the feeling that I've got from that throat of yours. You would just have to learn how to do it a lot faster. So there you go. We've also got the purples, that run across your eyes there, the eye, out the left temple, really, if your head was turned around, and out the left eye, I'll just turn myself around there. The right temple and the left eye, you're very much dictated to what you see as right. And I don't mean you as right, but what you see is the right thing to do. The right thing to do here is this. The right thing to do there would be that. And that sort of wanders on up into that pink, and it sort of mixes in with a number of things running behind stuff. So it drives you quite deeply, I would put is the right word. We've got this grey over your shoulder here, and it runs down behind everything else, actually. That grey can go silver. You are really a problem solver, and I think you know that about yourself. You see a problem and you want to dive straight into that problem so that we can just sort of sort everything out from here. Sorting things out seems to be a mantra or a catchphrase for you, and it's something that you can do very calmly, very matter-of-factly. I think it may be hard to wind you up, but when you do these things, it's because you can see the right way to go about things that puts you in the right frame of mind. That's the temple part that allows you to see solutions. So I like that for you. Your aura that I've put here is also changed by others. That means that when you are working with somebody else, I think you adopt part of their aura. You take that on, you feel it, you taste it, you see how you'd respond to it, and then you're very able to speak to a person on their terms from the level that they're coming out, from the understanding that they have, which I find really interesting. If you're talking to somebody who's not very smart, you'll find yourself very quickly and very easily adapting to that and giving them information in the way that's best for them. And then if you're talking to somebody on the other end of the intellectual credentials or financial, you just fit in anywhere. That's really where I was going with that. That's you done. Next.
Wow, wow, wow. What do you think, Justin? Pretty crazy. I know Justin pretty well, so I know he's probably blown away.
No problem. And next we've got Lisa. Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Right, so Lisa, we've got this interesting energy. She's fairly directive. Lisa, I first wanted to talk about, from the minute I put it in there, is we've got this blue running across from the right-hand side of the picture, all across to the bottom of the left-hand side of the picture. You are very much ruled by independence. The unfortunate side of that is you may sometimes feel like people aren't supporting you, specific people, not necessarily everybody. And interestingly enough, it's very much that, if you're not fine, don't tell people you're fine is the best I've got to give around that. It's heart sore, it's sensitive, it feels being neglected, it feels when people aren't there for you. Having said that, I know that you're there for most people most of the time, and so you don't understand why that is. It's an interesting thing. It's not a negative, but it is often something women tend to do. Some men do it too, they just do it differently. In this case, the independence may be that you felt that you needed to be independent, maybe that you feel like you don't need to share your problems with others, or maybe your profession suggests to you that, keeping that side to yourself is the wisest thing. I don't know. But it will cost you at certain times. And I think you need to understand it's not deliberate. They're very on others, the part of others. The very pale pink coming around your throat and your shoulders is you really, really are sensitive about other people's feelings with regards to the words you say. You would try very hard to say things or not to say too much, or to put yourself in a position where the other person feels good after having heard your words rather than feeling challenged, which doesn't bother me at all. Hey guys, you feel challenged, awesome. But for you, you want them to feel good. You want them to feel, so you'd very much be utilizing words and phrases and intentions to make somebody else feel the love and light thing going on. We've got this pale green. It runs around and above your head in a couple of places, and it comes into a sort of very pale yellow. It's a very teaching model, I tell you. So whatever you've got knowledge in is something you would always like to share, and you would share it well. Your whole drive is very rosy, and the rose colors and the paler rose colors are very much about, I'm always looking to guide. I'm always seeking to show people a better way, whether it's by example or by my words. I do think that you really believe that you are an example, whether it's to your children, whether it's to other people's children, whether it's to your friend. There's that whole feeling around you that, if I'm doing it all right, then that's going to spread out into the world and spread out into the world and spread out into the world. I would be not surprised at all if you undertook meditation on a regular basis, or at least some form of yoga or some form of calm thoughts. And it came into my mind like that, which is why I said yoga. So that kind of energy is around you. The little spots on the picture are actually from the background. I thought I'd tell everybody they're not. The dark spots and the colors are just from the background. Is it a beach? Something like that anyway. Yeah. And because I have a clarity setting, they came through, so we can ignore those. They are nothing to worry about at all. Now we have over here this sort of a blood red, ruby red color to the right of the picture, balanced off by a brighter version of itself on the other side. You are the master, Miss Lisa, of talking yourself into things. If you don't want to do it, you'll say, well, somebody will benefit. They need that. You'll go through this whole little conversation with yourself to talk yourself into doing something if you didn't necessarily want to do it. You'll find a reason, or a positive reason, to do things, which is kind of funny. The key here is that where I'm reluctant, I will talk myself into it. Talking yourself into change, talking yourself into things is something that you've become very adept at, because this is all through your aura everywhere. You may have spent a lot of time alone at some point in your life where you've guided yourself, if that makes sense, where you've sat there and you've had to work your own way through problems. You may have not felt particularly supported with that, or you may not have had anybody who knew how to support you. We've got these very pale lavender up the top here, mauve up the top here. mauve is a very interesting color when it's got more blue in it than it's got red, because while it's visiting that independent thought, it's also a creative independent thought. That means it doesn't matter who says they've got what qualification. If it doesn't feel right to you, you're very much the feely girl. If it doesn't feel right to you, you're like, yeah, you can keep that one. I'm good. I can keep on moving. And sometimes, if you're developing an idea of your own, or if you hear something, then there's this moment where you'll just decide, I think I can do this better. And that's that independent streak that will run through you. It's not a follower. You're not a follower. And working within a group and a team, whatever that might be, requires you to have a certain amount of autonomy over what you're doing. Being over-managed, over-controlled is something you wouldn't really like a whole lot of. But you're more likely to be bright and breezy to the person next to you that you do like, and ignore the person you're not so happy with rather than confront them. It's not something that you love a whole lot. But it's a really pleasant energy. It's very approachable, so you may find that people approach you easily, that you find it easy to talk to people and they find it easy to talk to you. So I think it's a very nice energy. We've got this little pale pink down towards your left elbow. You at times really need your own space. It's reflected in your throat too, so you may find yourself saying that on occasion, that I just need to go lock myself in the bathroom, have a bath, or I just need to lock myself in the bedroom, have a read. It's just that I need my own space. If you don't give yourself that, you may find yourself getting a little bit anxious, a little bit tetchy, or just feel constricted. So you have a very broad energy. This is the sort of energy that, I've got to say it, I'm sorry, some people will try and take advantage of. They will see it and think, yep, she'll say yes to everything, she'll do whatever we want. And so you may need to learn, or you may have had to need to learn how to say no or how to step away. I think you've got adept at it. You've got adept at avoiding certain things, but at the same time, I think that you just like to be there for other people. So there we go. That's Lisa.
Yay! Awesome. I think we want to do Tommy next because
we may run out of time. Yeah.
Plus, I haven't seen Doris. Yeah, I haven't seen her.
Yeah, we're not worried about. Yeah, if she's not here, she's not here. That's how it goes. That's how we roll. Roll up, what a mystery.
We can't forget Brian.
Well, we're not forgetting you guys, but I can address you after, yeah? If it comes to that.
We can go over a little bit too. I mean, if that's okay, Dorothy.
Yeah. Don't ask me. Yeah, we can go over a little bit. Yeah, okay. No, we're good. I'm fine. Okay, so we've got Tommy up there. Oh, look, if I can make her cringe, it's just, fantastic. If she talks pineapple pizza, I talk cringe talk. Yes, that's how it works. All right, Tommy. It's you up next, my girl. This orange is mixed with gold that turns to a sort of a lime yellow at your head. You can see it's like a little tail. This is where I was talking about patterns and why I mentioned patterns earlier. The actual colours infuse and mean different things at different stages or become something else. This is this beautiful creative energy. I've got a feeling confidence might be an issue for you when it comes to being creative. There's a lot of this creative energy in you. When we say creative, that could be writing a book, making cakes, starting your own business. Creative is creative in whichever way that applies to you. But I've got the sense of it gets diluted. So you may be overly concerned about what other people think or what they say, or a particular person. It might not be other people, but somebody who makes you feel less confident, and they may not even be in your life anymore. This could be a hangover energy. And as it hits down into your head, it becomes a much less idea. The optimism is there because that's the yellow, but there's also maybe I need to learn more, maybe I don't know enough. When you make mistakes, the chances are pretty good that you're going to race right back to maybe I need to go back to the beginning, or maybe I need to get back to the basics, the fundamentals, that kind of thing, where you talk yourself into a position of thinking you don't know as much as you should, or you could, or you can't hold your own. It's that feeling that I've got around these. Yet you've got what it takes. It's all there. It's in your arms, your shoulders, your productivity, how you feel about life. You really like to take a creative approach. You think creatively, but it may not necessarily work out for you physically the way that you do things. It may not be available to you at this stage, or you may have not allowed yourself to make it available. Now, if you look at this thing that looks like a tail, it comes on around to your third eye. It's slightly displaced, by the way. And that usually means when your third eye isn't quite positioned correctly, that the way you see forward isn't as direct as it could be. You may see, I don't think you see obstacles, by the way. It doesn't look like that. It's a nice color. It is sunny disposition, but it may be more that that's how you want to present yourself, because as it moves on round into the circle, it goes up and starts moving into this slightly murky color. So I'd say you keep your worries to yourself and present a positive face. That's how I would see that. Because it's almost going to form a circle, if I could put an outside edge on there, I know I would have brought it back up. You're coming through this murk and then you're coming back to this creative start again. So there is that whole energy of going around in circles, unfortunately, that where you start with something thinking, oh, this would be great. By the time you're finished with it, it's, yeah, but I can't do that. Or I'm just kidding myself. Who do I think I am? We have a number of circles around this energy off to the right side of your head, which is the left in reality, but the right side of the picture. These circles are very much pulsing when I was looking at you, and it's almost like they can go very rapidly. So I think that although that's not at your throat, it's reflected in your throat. I think that when you're nervous or when you're upset about things, you may talk very quickly. And then you're pulling it in from here and it's pulsing. So you may sort of lose your stride halfway through. I find it interesting. It's a bit distracted. It's a little bit here and there, but I really think that it's because of this murky color over here. If you could get a handle on that, I think you'd be just fine, actually. We've got all of this beautiful bright purples and pinks. Part of you believes that, if you're not accepting of others, how can you expect the world to grow? How can you expect other people to be whole? I really like it as an energy. It's a really pretty energy for you, and it's infused with these beautiful purples with sort of a rose. There's a combination, and it's much more convoluted than I've put here because it makes it look quite messy, but it's changeable, which means you are changeable. You're quite happily a particular person as the person I want to be, if you like, the person I want to present. But my private me, only one or two people would know that. Only a few very special people would know that. As we move down, we've got this lovely bright blue, and this is the sky blue, baby powder blue, call it what you like. It's reflected in your throat, your right shoulder, which is how you feel things, and reflect what you're doing, by the way, or how you feel things responsibility-wise. And this is really good. You can shrug things off, girl. I'd like to learn that one. It's like, enough of that. It's almost like a moment. You just go, enough of that, and moving right along. Forgetting the confidence thing that I see up there, this is quite cool. This is one that knows its place. It says, like, that's work, this isn't. I've had enough of that. I've worried about that for 2 hours or 3 days. Enough, let it go, because it's nice and bright. And so it's going to overwhelm the other things. There's very much going to be the, oh, well, maybe something good will come of that. There's very much an, oh, well, it had to happen that way because blah, blah. So it's really quite nice. Now we've got these 3 spots of this dark green. This dark green goes without fail as being like a little bit of, what do you call it now? Chip on the shoulder, that kind of thing. It's unprocessed when it's around the mouth there. You really catch what you say a lot. That means you may have a history of having somebody around you, a parent figure or a sibling or somebody in authority or a partner who could be perhaps not the nicest person to you. And with that person, you may have found yourself letting go now and again, or you may want to say something to somebody, but you catch it. Because it's a filter and because it's unprocessed, you may want to look at that. You may want to look at where that comes from, because you are probably saying, why would I even think that? That's the way that you would be processing that, because it comes into the jaw. It's like it wants to be said. And the thing that you would have the most danger of with this energy around your jaw is problems with your gums, problems with your teeth. Something to reflect on if that hasn't happened yet. If it has happened yet, something to do something with. Down here, the heart chakra is off to the right. By the way, that's why I've made it so prominent. It's silver, it's bright, it's unique, it's interesting, and I think it's avoiding something. So I think you're just sort of trying to avoid some kind of feeling, a level of feeling, a depth of feeling. You like to keep things in the comfort zone. But this silver is beautiful. I'd really like to see it front and center, which I'm going to try and do for you now. I'd like to see it front and center, because then that's how you will really shine. It can be devastating to be really unique, to have unique solutions, to think outside the box, and then have people pull that down. But I think it's something to learn to deal with, to be honest, instead of not doing it. If we learn to deal with it, then we can always be who we are. We can always have that level of integrity. I also think once that's front and center, it will help with this top right hand of the picture, this murkiness up here, which I know must come from your past somewhere, and a dominant person, quite likely. When people take our confidence, they usually get us at a time when we're vulnerable to allowing that to happen. In other words, we have a lack of belief in ourselves somewhere, and they hit that spot bang on and reinforce a belief that we already had. I often say this, if you get a skinny girl and you walk up to her and say, God, you're fat, she's just going to laugh in your face. You get a girl who's even got 1 or 2 pounds on her hips and you call her fat, and she's going to go run into the mirror screaming, oh no, and she'll be dieting for the next 30 years, So it's about vulnerability in the moment as much as it is about truth or falsity. Vulnerability is something determined by ourselves, and I don't think vulnerability is a weakness, but if we are vulnerable in a way and we learn how to deal with that, how to open up to somebody about that, how to let that be a part of ourselves, then we are stronger actually as a person. But we're more likable. Nobody likes the perfection because we can't live up to that. It's pretty straightforward. And that's our lovely Tommy. I hope you enjoyed that tricky little ditty.
I'm not even sure if she's still here, but I hope she's still here.
She was before, so,
Yeah. Well, if she misses it, she can listen to the archives. But
yes,
wow, awesome.
Thank you. Next.
I do actually have a picture of Caitlyn that was done before, if you want to take a look at that.
No, I've done it before.
Okay.
I'm very straight up on that. I'd already done it. I know she's looking at you going, what? We still have Brian, don't we?
Yeah, we have Brian. Girl.
What? I know it's a radio show. Sorry, folks. So what happened there was Suzie asked if I still had those pictures from last time, which meant to me that maybe you didn't. So I sent them all off, including Caitlyn's, because I did them last time. And that's why I was saying I won't do an aura reading this time, but I'll do the future projections because we already did the aura reading. So otherwise it's just the same information again.
Yeah, and I got all confused because
she got confused. And so I sent Caitlyn again. And Brian, I'm doing Brian. He's next.
Okay, it's up there.
Brian with boobs.
Brian has boobs.
Brian has boobs, and he's got.
Yeah, very nice.
I honestly, this is my childness right there. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. I'm giving Brian boobs. It's like, oh my gosh, Dorothy, really? Okay. So what we've got here is an interesting softer array of colors. You can see that there's nothing particularly hugely bright, but we have got this rose red, if you like, coming from a dark origin and moving down from just before 6 months, and it stays with you, Brian, all the way down to your 2-year range. It even finds a footing that is almost a match for the color at the beginning. So it's a long journey, but it's one of purpose. It's a dusky rose color, and the dusky roses tend to feel like, I know where I'm going, I know why I'm doing things. It's very much that energy of there's everything around us that feels good, feels right. It's my heart, it's my life, it's where I want to be, it's what I want to do. So you're following a purpose for quite a long time. We come to this interesting, see this little umbrella of yellows? That's the same almost as Susie's little umbrella. Did you notice that? I noticed that. Yeah. So that means you're kind of on the same page when it comes to this sort of learning or development at the moment, because that's kind of current. And that's why people like each other. The similarities, right? There's a similarity in their energies. There's things that are similar. And so they can discuss something ad nauseum to everybody else, but stay vital with it in each other because they're both learning the same thing. They're developing the same knowledge. They're heading in the same direction with that. So I find that kind of cool. It is a learning energy. Now for you, there's a spark of orange through there. And see this, like there's like a little dark center on the left bottom ball, just a little dark center there. That's like a chakra hole, and a chakra essentially is pushing knowledge through one end and pulling it out another. And so we've got another one here. See the blue's got the little hole in it as well. See there? So your crown chakra is all of those colors that we're looking at and how it's developing over the next 7 months, 7 months. All right. I got 7 months there, so we'll stick with that. With that, it's a little bit all over the place. So you will shift a bit between, I believe this now, but I can change that tomorrow if I see a good reason to do so. You're not fixed or fixated. So I quite like that for you. This darker, it's actually a kind of a metallic. It's not really gold. It's more of the metallic green that, you know, how gold sometimes mixed with some metals looks green, almost brassy, but not. It's got that greenish tinge to it. That flows through on this side. So as that's your left side, the right side of the photo, it suggests too that you're developing knowledge you already have as opposed to taking on something completely new. So I find that interesting. You're looking for ways to use what you have, use what you've learned, use what you've put into place about a number of things. It won't be just one thing. Our lovely royal blues up here are very much in command of themselves. There's confidence in those. There's a few different aspects. I've got 3 or 4 maybe different areas where you're applying your energy. I can focus on this and this and this, and that's all I got for now. You know, I can't just keep spreading myself thin. So you're very focused on keeping things directed over the next 6 months, and you will find yourself in a position. Have you ever piloted planes?
No, but I have piloted UAVs.
What's a UAV?
A UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Oh, well, I just picked that up.
A drone.
A drone, yeah. I see. You could have said that. Yeah, I'm down with drones. Yeah. I'm down with drones. UAVs, I'm like, yeah, what kind of talk is that? So that just came in when I was looking at this blue. So I don't know if that's an ongoing thing for you or if it's something you want to develop or if it's something you're taking forward, but it's part of the direction that we're looking at here. In fact, everything I'm looking at different times here is very directed. You know, you get that look of it, eh? It's like, I'm going this way, I'm feeling that about it. There's no real confusion. What's a bit more scattered up here at the moment, because it's current, doesn't actually stop you when you move on through as it was. With this dark mauve coming in at the same, you see it, if you go across that line, you see the colors dissecting across that line. There's a lot going on there, and you will be speaking your truths, what you want, where you're going. You're excited. It's all the right stuff. And it just goes, I've put all of my life, it's the feeling I've got, whether it is actually all your life, into this period of time, and now I'm going to take it forward and play with it. And that's how it feels, very much so. This left hand, right hand side of the picture, left hand of view, area that's like the purple squiggly line. Well, actually, it's more like a radar going out, you know, or a sonar or whatever that is, you know, going out, ding, ding, ding. You'll be very good at telling people how you feel about things for a purpose. Not just to talk, not just to put it out there, but for a purpose. It's almost like, you know, I feel this way about this, and I think that that's because that happens, but it's not just about you. It feels like it's about how others can learn or how others can gain more experience or understanding, whether it's understanding a view of themselves, I'm not clear. But right up close to you, it's very much that energy of understanding, acceptance, and getting it, that we don't have to strive so hard to be who we're not or to be something we're not or to hide something we are. It's that kind of feeling and wanting to get that message out there, literally a message out there. We've got the cerise here, and it plays into a little bit of brown around. That's from about 7 or 8 months, I'd say, 8 months to 11 months, and it pushes right on into your sacral plexus. Your own personal values are going to be challenged through that time. That does mean very often that some bastard is going to step up and say, what do you think you're doing? You don't know what you're doing, you crazy person. And you're going to need to stand firm in who you are and what you know about yourself. Okay, so it's not a conflict. It feels more like a challenge, that you're being challenged by either a group or a. Was I not meant to say that word?
No, I'm just cracking up because I'm thinking about what you're saying about Brian, and then I went back to what you were saying about me and the blonde-haired lady. So
well, this is
he's going to have a conflict. I'm going to have a fight.
Yeah. So I'll repeat. I don't see this as a conflict.
Oh,
I see this, as his values being challenged, which is quite a difference.
A challenge.
When a person's, I'll explain this. I'll explain. When a person's values and their belief in themselves is challenged, that means somebody has said something big or little, or somebody of high value has said something where you would normally believe everything they say about them, or they've got high integrity. So you're thinking a lot about this person. You think good things about them. If they say something that really hits home and attacks your personal value, your sense of who you are, you're going to feel it. And it goes on for a while. So it's not a random stranger, but it's somebody that you respect, trust, and like. The most chances are pretty good because we've got those softer pinky grays in there. We've got silver flowing down and around, and it moves into grey further down. So if you see that silver, it comes into just below your belly button. So that's the area being taken care of or being attacked. I think the silver is your response to it over that period of time, and at the end you find out who you are. So this is the sort of thing that lets us understand ourselves better. With this emotional thing going on the other side, it makes sense to me. That's a balanced thing, isn't it? That there's well, hang on a minute, you might be saying that my values are screwed because, or you might say because I believe in this that I'm not as good a person as you, whichever way that might go. But over here, I'm saying I've learned this and this and this, and I've developed this understanding, and I accept you for who you are. That tells you a lot about who I am, and so on and so on. And those are the sort of things we're talking about when there's a challenge of this sort that comes into play. Don't underestimate it. This sort of challenge is important, and it is powerful. It is very much felt, because you may think that this person's trusted you and suddenly you find or feel that they don't. You may think that this person respects you and then they're undermining you. In my world, it sort of means something like a man's chasing me. He wants to have a relationship with me. Things seem to be going really well. And he says, what do you do? And I say, I'm a clairvoyant. And he'll go, don't be silly. Do you follow? It's that right. Kind of thing. At that level, it's nothing. It's like, bye-bye. But if it's somebody you've known for a long time and somebody who means a lot to you and whose opinion matters, then it becomes a bit more important, doesn't it? So it's that kind of feeling. And because it lasts for a little while, like I said, it's not some random stranger on YouTube or on the chats or in a group. It'll be somebody you care about, which is why it matters. Do I see it damaging you? Absolutely not. I see that as part of all the rest of the stuff. When we can affirm who we are, when we're called upon to explain ourselves, it makes us stronger. If it doesn't, if we give away part of our value, part of our belief to match somebody else's comfort zone, then we become lesser of ourselves, don't we?
Yeah.
So as we move down past the 12 months, you can see, as I said, that silver. Silver is unique, by the way. Literally, it's unique. It can become determined. But it's a unique train of thought. It's where we're required to think beyond what we've been taught by our parents, by society, by our common belief. Even in the groups that we hang out with, that we have common and shared beliefs with, we're required to think beyond that. We're required to have a look at things and think in a unique way about that. Those are the people that are the inventors. These are the people that are the inventions of a new way of saying things, doing things, how we look at stuff. And these are the requirements. And when value is tied up in that, then we are looking at, well, how do we see self-value, personal value, the value of others, my value in relation to the world? All of these things are the domain of the sacral chakra. When it becomes determination, and it takes look at that, it takes a left-hand hook. It says, well, I'm doing this right now, and here's where I'm going. Just watch me go. And again, we've got that umbrella-like energy, which is matched on the other side by a little bit of a lightning bolt. Now, that shape is very similar to the master symbol in Satium, by the way. There's a symbol that is all about mastery over oneself. When you apply that as matching this, and I just drew it, I didn't think about it till after it was there, matching this curve on the right, the curve is pushing it out into the world and being determined to do so. So with all of that and the compassion of that rose pink and that understanding of mastering oneself, I think that in the next 18 months to 2 years, you're going to find yourself in a powerful personal position. And if you haven't been there before now, then it's a welcome relief to finally feel comfortable in your own skin, if you know what I mean, and feel like all of your choices, I mean, nobody's life's perfect, and I'm not saying that, but it's showing that all of your main choices and the main drive and focus of your life, you're happy with. And it's taking you where you want to go, which is a peaceful feeling. And so it's feeling at peace with yourself, really, at the end of that. I don't think that would have happened as well without this challenge. So, things are necessary, right? It's easy to be in the top position if nobody is trying to get ahead of you, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of stuff. So when people challenge us, it's always, to my mind, an opportunity to learn something about yourself. Even in a conflict, actually, Suzie, you know, if somebody goes into direct conflict with us and we sit and listen to them and then we calmly respond to them, it kind of disarms them. You know, they have to go and fight with themselves, the mirror, or something else, or vent their fumes somewhere else. But if we rise to that conflict, then we become an active part of it. And that's how that works. You can't fight with one person. You have to have two. Just a thought.
Yeah.
There has to be two, you know, or more.
So that's that Rocky theme. The Rocky theme.
The Rocky theme. Yeah, we'll get that music going. Yeah, get that music going. So that was all of our friends there. Has that covered everybody that's here and live outside of our Caitlyn that everybody feels really sorry for?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Doris is. Doris, are you in the chat? Hello?
Yeah, well, that's right. You don't know what their YouTube usernames are sometimes, do we? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would have thought she might have said, though, if she was. But if Doris, if you are in the chat, just give us a yell, because I did your aura. But we're coming towards the end of our show, and so if you're not there, then I'll move on. That's pretty much how this will always work for anybody listening. If you're not going to be here live, then we'll read everybody here that bothered to show up. How's that?
And I want to thank everybody who did show up. So, and I hope, no, I'm not even going to say that because I already know that they're blown away. But Caitlyn, did you want a little quick personal reading before we go?
Only if Dorothy has time and we have time on the show.
Dorothy has time, and they said they'd make time.
Yes.
Then sure,
we
we'd like to.
We could go over our show. We could go over a little bit if we want to. So
yeah, that's right. You can do what you like. Okay. Did you want me to just look at general, or did you want me to look at something in particular?
I'm not prepared, so I guess general.
I'm not prepared. Let me take 5 days to think about what I might like to ask. Okay, so sorry, couldn't help myself. So just as an aside, aura speak, you are running a bright orange down your left ear at the moment. That means somebody's trying to talk you into something. If they're not right now, they're going to try, and you're going to be fairly receptive to the sounds of it. But I also see you sort of leaning away from it, as in maybe that's just too big a change, or it's just too much. Oh, I don't know, that's just a bit too hard. So I've got that feeling around that. That's going to go on for a little while, so they may come back at you like a nag. You know, constantly coming back at, come on, let's do that. Come on, it'd be great. And in the end, I've got a feeling that you might just say, oh, naff off. And that's only because you're over them nagging, though, not because you didn't like the idea. So there might be a moment where you could say, you know, if you give me a chance to process this, it might be just fine. She's giggling away merrily. So that I've got for you. It's going to be very soon. If it hasn't started already, I would expect it to start very shortly. And I would say we are talking months. So whatever it is, they're really kind of keen on. And it is creative. So it's an idea. It's not like, you know, something you got to stop. It's not a fight. It's nothing like that. It's, I want to do this, or we should do this, or something along those lines. It could be as crazy as, let's paint this whole room olive green or whatever, and you going, not so sure about that one, but it'll be constant and ongoing. So one of the ways to deal with that is to, at some point when you realize they're not going away with this idea, is to ask them how they see it working, what they see all of you getting out of it. Convince me is what I'd say, so that they're not saying the same thing again and again and again, trying to get your attention. Because when a person starts nagging you, it usually means they feel like you're not listening to them. So if you let them know, yes, I am listening, and so that if I don't want to do it, I will say so. I won't try to avoid listening. Okay, how's that? So that's the first thing I've got for you. Secondarily, I have some car problems for you. Oh, I'm clenching my fists because I just sort of feel like it's the words that came with that is like another thing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
It's another thing. Oh gosh, have you had a few problems with your car, or is it other things and the car?
Other things in the car, but I really don't need the car problems right now.
No. So again, information has a purpose, and the best thing you can do with that would be, if there's something you're not sure about right now, nip it in the bud. Don't put it off because you can't afford it, because it gets more expensive. We know how cars work, right? Something might cost more than you can afford right now. It'll cost a whole lot more when it actually cuts it and drops something and damages something else on its way out and all the rest of it. The last time I told something about a car, they came back to me and said, thanks for that. And I said, thanks for what? About a month later. And they said, you broke my car. I said, I did not break your car. I just told you it was going to break. So do take note. And if it even sounds funny, if you're not sure, get somebody else to listen to it. Or if you've got any funny lights come on, don't let anybody tell you it's nothing, because it's not constant right now. Go and find somebody who knows what they're talking about. Okay, are we clear? All right, I'm sorry, but I can tell you that you're coming past the woes, if you like. So it feels like by about May of this year, you'll feel like things are finally getting under control, and that you won't have any sudden or unexpecteds. So you can just work your way out of the little hole or whatever it is and keep yourself going smoothly. I feel that by the end of July, you feel like, I've got this sigh of relief that is so profound, I could almost collapse if I tried to execute it. I'd implode with all the air leaving my body. And it's really like you've been in a state of tension, but not just for the car, not just for a few things that have gone wrong, but it feels like, I want to say maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 months there's been this tension building, or it's been there. And there's a point where you can't really keep holding tension. It gets you down, makes you tired, makes you sick. So, but by the end of July, I mean, I can't tell you not to feel the anxiety, but by the time you get to the end of July, just get that feeling of an exhale. It's all over. It's all done. We're okay now. I'm okay now, not we're okay. And that I can move forward now knowing that I'm on top of everything. So it does feel like a difficult time. It feels like you're in a transition year. Unfortunately, transition years are not always comfortable, but that doesn't mean they're bad. So a transition is simply this position that hasn't been working for a while to this position, the beginning of creating a new position that works better. Okay. With all of that being a little bit circumspect, we are live on air. But having said that, I think you know what we're talking about. And then, of course, at the same time, while transition periods are difficult, I do think we're talking a number of changes for you, not just one. So it feels like one thing causes the next thing, causes the next thing. But you do come out the other side of that. And I don't mean in 3 years' time. By the end of July, it just gets you feeling like you're in, you got this. And I've got this. You're not necessarily 100% comfortable, but you're not anxious anymore. You're not worried anymore. It's just like, okay, it's just one day at a time. Let's go. And let's put ourselves where we want to be. And you do exactly that. And that's your fortitude, that's your inner strength, that's all of your stuff, I suppose, that finds its way to where it needs to be. I've also got some health issues around you. Sorry. Okay, so I'll call that quits for now and we can talk later.
Man, this is a rough year.
Well, it happens, I guess. The thing is, health issues aren't necessarily dire, but that comes in, I think that speaks to you can't carry anxiety for long periods without it costing you physically, and that's almost like the kick in the pants for most people. They go, haven't I got enough to go through without being sick? Well, if you think about managing the stress of what you're going through, and it can be done, if you think about how you can manage that, you're less likely to get sick. Because the first thing anxiety does for us is it overuses our adrenals, and that reduces our immune system. So we get everything that's going, and then we run down and so on and so on and so on. So it's like a little we kick the dog when it's down moment. Having said that, we kind of do it to ourselves by not being aware that we can't carry, stress has a purpose in every human's life. It stops us dying in cars when we need a stress response in a moment. It helps us react faster, move faster, do all the right things. It stops us falling off a cliff because we become so scared when we sort of get close to the edge of that cliff that we realize we've got to stop because we don't have wings and sort of stuff like that. Anxiety has a purpose, but its purpose is short-lived, and it is to release adrenaline into our system to save our lives. And so when we feel tension for a long period of time, we're doing that constantly. And that takes resources from other parts of our body. And since we're not running away from the tiger, we're not using that energy either. So it sits with us in a pretty challenging way, and it can affect sleep, affect our diet, the way we eat and what we eat. All sorts of things get affected by it. So it's got a very, very big role on. By knowing this, you can minimize that ill health part of that reading. You see? Yeah. So find ways to relax. Now, somebody was telling me the other day, that about once every 8 weeks or so. They have massive stress at work, and then they go away and they spend a weekend at the beach and they feel great. And I said, no, sorry, that's not it. You need something every day or every other day. You're better off with half an hour, 15 minutes, listening to some YouTube meditation that just makes you feel, guzzling wine so fast that even though you only had a glass, you feel completely relaxed at the end of it. Whatever that might be, sitting in a spa pool, whatever that is, go mow the lawn, at 100 mile an hour, as fast as you can, because it takes stress out of the body. And as soon as you get that stress out of the body, it doesn't matter if it took you 10 minutes to get it out, as long as you do it regularly, not occasionally. How's that? And I'll tell you something about occasionally. When you go and you've built up stress over a period of time, and you go and you decompress and you feel great, and you come back and that stress is immediately back. Within a week, boom, it's like it never went. And so when you do it every day, you're getting that same kind of effect, only it lasts better, because it still lasts one day, but then you're doing it again a day later, and so on and so on. So that's my advice.
Wow, wow, wow. What do you think, Caitlyn?
Very on point. Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy.
You're welcome. Bet you wish you never asked now. That was wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much, Dorothy. Really quick, before we let you go, I do have a few announcements to make. March 8th, so we usually do our shows every other Friday, but we do have a show this Friday, March 8th. We are going to have Threefold Paranormal. So Threefold Paranormal is basically 3 ladies who are working on the Cropsey. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Cropsey, but the legend of Cropsey. They've made it very personal. They have even investigated what's the name of the island, guys? Stanford Island?
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
We got Julia Sarcusa, Vanessa Hogel,
and Rachel Rodbell.
Yes. They just released a documentary that they've been working on for a really long time. And they've been on a show before, but that was before the documentary was released. So we're going to have a show with them this Friday. It's going to be amazing. Don't miss it. I want to make a group shout to the Facebook group Paranormal Hauntings. They are amazing. They're non-drama. They're very relaxed about posting. Definitely always let us post and, talk about our radio stuff and our group stuff and everything. So check them out. Paranormal Hauntings. Do you guys have a group shout before I go on really quick?
I do.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to Southern Paranormal Hunters, which was Justin tonight. They're from St. Joseph, Tennessee. And of course, they're no drama and great group. So hopefully we'll all get to meet up with them and investigate with them this year or next year. So.
Yeah, and Justin was just on our show, so got to check out his group. They're amazing. What about you, Brian? Do you have a group shout?
No, not a group shout out. I just want to give a shout out to all of our chatters, our listeners, our guests. Dorothy, I love it every time you come on. You're such an amazing, wonderful lady. I would love to actually do some of the other items that you offer as far as like the DNA stuff, because I know there's stuff that's in my past and everything that I really truly need to deal with, but I have buried it for so long. I don't know if I could actually get it to come out by itself. But yeah, Justin Neville, great guy. I enjoy working with him, talking with him. And Lisa, I don't know Tommy, but thank you again for coming out and listening to our show. We can't do this without the listeners, without the chatters and everything. So thank you all.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We need you. I mean, we just now started getting back into doing our show, so we need you to keep coming back and loving on us, and we'll love on you as well. Really quick, I want to post a link here in chat. This is the link to Haunting the Afterlife Radio group page. Please come in and involve yourself. This is where you're going to find out more about our guests, who they are, what they're doing, events that, you know, we might be coming up and stuff like that. So check that out and become a member. And also, one thing I do want to say really quick, our show archive will be available, by Sunday, Bri? Because we do have to edit out some of
have to edit out a little bit, and especially with the little technical difficulty at the beginning of the show. So it should be up Sunday by midnight. I'm going to say that. If not, give it a little bit until Monday and stuff. But
okay.
It'll be up within the next couple days.
All right, awesome. Yeah, we'll have that up for Cher and for Dorothy to you know, put on her website if she wants to or whatnot. But yeah, other than that, anything else, guys?
I want to say, and we put the links in chat and everything, but for those that are listening, go out to Amazon, look up Dorothy Holder. She has some amazing books out there, and she's a great author, and just an absolutely wonderful person. So go out, take a look at some of the books and everything. And if you liked what you were listening to and everything, go out to her website and everything, get in contact with her and see if you could get a reading and stuff.
Yeah, and I wanted to make a short comment really quick. She is an amazing cook, and she's got some cookbooks. So
there you go.
Check that out too.
Oops, back to food.
This lady is just, oh God, we were having a conversation a while ago about food, and I was just like, oh my God, there goes my keto.